Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Leadership Speak series at Health Forum. Today, I have the joy of bringing on a guest who I have known for almost 4 decades. Today, I have the Managing Director of Joyville Shapoorji Housing, Sriram Mahadevan, and my classmate from school. Welcome to the show, Sriram.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dr. Ringo. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Now it's a pleasure to having me in your show, and it's a privilege to be on your show. I have witnessed many of your L Forum interviews, and you have interviewed some of the stalwarts. I don't know whether I belong to that league, but thank you nevertheless for giving me this opportunity to have a discussion with you.
Thank you. And before I go any further, this is the unabashed joy I have to admit that I'm so proud of all your achievements, and I wish you many more successes, many more glorious days ahead for you. So, without further ado, Sriram, let's get started on today's discussion, which is around empowerment as a competitive advantage in organizations. And you are in a very interesting world of construction and real estate, which is a very unique, not a new industry, but it's a pretty mature industry. So obviously it has its own challenges and nuances. So I'm sure myself and the audience would love to hear your journey as a leader. And then we'll take it from there on terms of what you have done with empowerment. So tell us your journey as a leader so far.
Well, how do I address you? Do I address you as Dr. Ringo, or do I
just call me Ringo as you've always called me? So.
Okay, fine. So Ringo, it's like this. We all have a leader inside us, and I've realized that pretty much early in my career, that there's a leader in everyone. It all depends upon the opportunity which one gets and what one does with that opportunity. Do they seize that opportunity, or do they let it pass? So far as I am concerned, I'm lucky enough. God has blessed me with the opportunities of becoming a leader, of being a leader. Pretty much early in my career, when I qualified as a finance professional. There were these finance head roles which I had performed. So that itself was a leadership position. So my first job itself was almost a kind of a leadership position, reporting to the general manager of the company, which was the Coca-Cola company. So there, what I realized is that as a leader, so the journey is what you make out of that journey. It all depends upon how much you make out of that role, whether you are able to take the pressure, whether you are able to take the right calls at the right time, whether you are able to develop your team, whether you are able to lead them from the front, whether you lead them with passion, whether you lead them with all your heart. That's what I feel that leadership is all about. And to my mind, the journey of leadership which I have experienced for the last 2.5 decades is that I have moved from sectors to sectors, so I can call myself sector agnostic. So I started off in a FMCG with the Coca-Cola company, and then I moved on to organized retail, and from there to telecom, and then finally stumbled into real estate. So that is what the journey has been so far. The last 11 years, I have been in real estate, and this is one sector which, to my mind, I've worked in very high-paced kind of industries like FMCG and telecom, where things can change overnight pretty fast. Real estate is something where nothing changes overnight. And sometimes as a leader, you might feel that you are running on a treadmill. So you are sweating it out, but nothing moves, because 60 to 70 or 60 to 70% of what you have to do depends upon the external approvals, of the regulatory approvals which are there. A leader has to have the patience, right amount of balance between getting the work done as well as taking the team along when the approvals are not coming through. While when you introduced me, you said that real estate is a very matured industry. At the same time, I should say that it is still a primitive industry because we deal with so many unskilled laborers. We In India, this is the second largest sector which contributes to the GDP of India, and possibly the largest employer, second largest employer after agriculture. A nation of 1.4 billion, where this is the second largest employer. So you are interested with so many responsibilities to run so many families. So one, as a leader, that is the kind of responsibility that you carry in the real estate industry.
Amazing. And
One,
I think, when you said talking about employment, that's so relevant in a country like India where jobs are the biggest, drivers, right? And building that middle class. And I think you're doing a great job of, building that whole infrastructure. And I really salute you for all the good work you're doing. Uh, what in your mind, in this world that you live in, is empowerment? What is your definition of empowerment?
the empowerment as a subject is very close to my heart. When somebody says empowerment, what do you mean by empowerment? The first thing which comes to my mind is that, okay, to empower, you have to be a leader. You have to have the power, right? But I have also noticed that many leaders, they feel very insecure to empower the team. And that insecurity stems from, a lot of leaders I have seen, they find it difficult to delegate. They find it difficult to give freedom to the direct reportees and accordingly encourage the empowerment word in the real sense to flow across the organization. But I have seen the leaders who grow are the leaders who really empower. Because to my mind, a leader has to become redundant as fast as possible. Because when a leader becomes redundant, then you are sure that the leader is not insecure about his own future. He is surely but steadily, growing his team, developing his team, his second line, and he's allowing them to grow. And in that process, what you see is that there are a lot of things which get streamlined across the organization. Things get done fast, decisions are taken fast, and you see the productivity in some way or the other keeps growing. It is quite infectious. Empowerment is quite infectious. If you are able to really practice it, then slowly but steadily you will find that at every level of the organization there is that degree of empowerment which exists. That is what the actual success of a leader, you can define the success of a leader from how empowered the organization is.
I totally agree with you that, the thing about insecurity is probably one of the biggest drawbacks or the bottlenecks of why people don't empower. We talk about empowerment, many of us are scared to let go. You're absolutely true. And also, I like the fact that you said it's infectious. If you build a culture of empowerment, I think that culture comes down the pecking order and there is more delegation and there is more trust, I guess, that you build as a team, right? Very well said, Sriram.
And I guess it also flows from my own manager. Just to put things in perspective, he doesn't get involved in my business at all. It is like it is your business. It is your call. You take the call. The pluses are for you. The minuses are for you. But I will, as a leader, I will always stand beside you. And that's the kind of support which you need from your manager, and that's the kind of support which I believe that I should be extending to the team. Then only the real test of a leader comes into the picture, and then only the organization will flourish over a long period of time.
Very well said. And which is why, I kind of picked this topic because I think it's very close to many people's hearts as to how you empower and how you kind of build a sustainable organization, right? So, what have been your, approaches to make it like a competitive advantage, especially like you said, you have a large unskilled labor population. How have you leveraged it and what benefits have you got from? Can you give us any anecdotal examples where you've used empowerment and that has immensely benefited your firm and yourself?
Well, I can safely say that if Sriram Mahadevan is not in the organization for the next 60 days also, he goes on a long leave, the organization will not survive. The organization will keep working.
Wow, that's great. That's
I think that's a real litmus test for any leader. If the entire organization look forward to the leader to take a call, then you become the bottleneck as a leader. So you should be able to enable your team to take calls, and at the same time, you should know where to delegate and where not to delegate. That clear definition has to be there, and then the team also needs to be pushed. I have also seen that when you might be empowering your direct report, but they might not be empowering their direct reports. So one literally needs to see to it that the culture flows through the organization. And the anecdotal, what I told you, that if I am not there in the office, also the work doesn't stop; it gets done. And wherever I am, if at all I have to be reached, I would be reached only for a yes or no kind of a situation. It wouldn't be that, okay, if I have to do X, Y, Z, should I do it? Should I not do it? That intellectualization or that constant questioning yourself whether to do it or not to do it in absence of the leader, that is never a question mark in my mind. They know exactly what I want. They know exactly what is good for the business, and they know exactly what needs to be done for the business. And they put themselves in my shoes when they take those calls. That what if Sriram would have been here today, then what would he have told me to do? I think that's what is the biggest satisfaction that I get out of building an organization with Joyville over the last 6 years.
Excellent. I mean, in that was a big statement when you said that if you take a vacation for 60 days, your firm will continue business as usual. That is a very prophetic statement to make. Uh, so, have you encountered challenges, or what downsides do you see of empowerment? Are there any downsides at all?
Obviously, see, downsides are there. See, when you are empowering your team, so you have to be also careful as to what extent are you empowering. Because see, it all depends upon the capability of the team also. If you empower a team, the team might be good in certain skills, the team may not be, and even within the team, there are certain strengths and weaknesses between the team members. So a person who is really, really good at something, you can simply empower him with your own powers, right? Because you know very well that in that particular sphere of work, he can take calls as best as I would have taken. But at the same time, there might be a team member who might not be so strong in a particular field. There, you have to have those checks and balances as to what extent you should empower, and because with empowerment, accountability goes, right? So when you are giving the authority to somebody, you are also implicitly passing on the accountability to that somebody. So whether that somebody has the maturity to handle the power that he or she gets and dovetails it with the accountability that he or she is supposed to exhibit in that particular role, that is something a leader has to be very, very careful about. Because if accountability is not passed on and only power is passed on, then it can lead to complete chaos in the organization, which is not a good thing to, which is not a good situation to be in at any point of time. So, to my mind, empowerment is somewhat like the way you deal with people on a situational leadership kind of a situation. Yeah, everybody need not be told, but there are certain people who need to be told what to do. So, we need to really pick and choose how to empower, to what extent to empower, basis their capability of taking the power and accountability.
So, do you feel that empowerment kind of, it's not a catch-all? Not everybody can be potentially empowered. There are some who will probably need more controls.
Well, that's where the leader comes in, because ultimately his goal has to be that each and every team member should be having that capability to take on more and more responsibilities, along with more and more responsibilities with authority. Now, if somebody is falling short, then it's a question of the leader to develop that person, come to that level so that he is able to take on that accountability fully, and the power also, authority also. So I personally feel that the buck stops with the leader. The leader has to be the motivator. The leader has to be the mentor. The leader has to be the coach. and he has to ensure that his weakest link comes up to the level at which the entire team performs at 100% efficiency.
Excellent. I love that. In fact, I'm a big fan of that, inclusivity and making sure everybody is, so that is a very big thing.
Yeah, because if you keep writing off people, or if you don't give them the responsibility, maybe you can start off with a very insignificant part of the business where you know that the downside is not going to be very huge, even if that person takes a wrong call. But you have to test out that person. You have to put him like in when we were young boys, when we learn swimming, where we were thrown into the water. And then automatically you learn swimming. So similarly, there will be situations in an organization where some situations may be very critical to the business. Some situation you can still manage if it little bit goes out of the track. So you should try out those persons by giving them the responsibility to handle that and see how they react to it, and let them make mistakes, so long as you cover their back.
It's a very big thing. The thing that you just now said about letting people make mistakes. Many are scared of the mistakes, right? And that comes from, I think, confidence, and you think that yes, I can steer the ship in case things go wrong. Which again, like you said, to your point, leadership is very critical in such, in such scenarios. So my last question for today's discussion, Sriram, is what would be your advice? What would be your suggestions for somebody who is probably looking at empowerment and being a little apprehensive about, is empowerment good or not so good? What would be your advice?
See, if you have to, my simple formula is that if you have to grow yourself, you have to embrace empowerment. If you are fearful about empowering, of the word empowerment, then you will never grow yourself. So, as a leader, you should always look forward to situations where possibly you should be ready to delegate in the first instance, but develop the team first. Ensure that your team has the capability to take the power along with the accountability. So that is the first and foremost task, and then you straight away start delegating to them. I think it works. It has worked magic for me, and that is how I have been working through my entire 2.5 decades, and it has always helped me to grow in my career. And that would be my advice: that take calculated risk, empower your team, and stand behind them. All credits go to them, all debits go to you.
Excellent.
If that is the policy you follow, then your team will surely
absolutely
live up to the standard.
That one corollary to the question I just had: how do you build accountability? That's a topic for another day, but I'm just kind of how have you done it? I mean, because like you rightly said, power without accountability is madness.
Yeah. So, see, any situation there would be some outcomes which you are finally chasing. So, if those outcomes are clearly thought through, that this is what we want to achieve, and by X, Y, Z timelines, then you leave it to the individual as to how he or she achieves, with the right kind of exercise of authority and everything. I think that definition is, most of the time we find that definition itself is very weird. It is very subjective. If you can make those definitions sharp for the team to understand that, okay, this is what is expected out of me, and if you build a meritocracy kind of a culture in the organization, then they know very well that, okay, this is what is expected out of me, and I have to, if I don't do this, then the organization loses this, and in that process, I also tend to lose.
That I think is very essential. So thank you so much, Sriram. Thank you for your time, and it's been a pleasure and joy as always to speak with you. We've been speaking for over 4.5 decades now, so it's another day for us. But thank you so much for your views.
Let me congratulate you, Ringo, that you run such a beautiful kind of sessions. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. It's always a pleasure to hear the speakers who come on your show. I think it's such a big boon, and social media is such a great medium through which you are sitting over there in New Jersey with a sweater on, and I am sitting over here in Mumbai, possibly thinking when should I remove my t-shirt. So, but we are interacting,
Very well
So,
said. And in fact, I thank you. Thank you for the bottom of my heart for your kind words, because this forum was started for leadership, and I want to bring people from the real world, who have really walked the talk, lived the real world. So I try to keep it as diverse, and I thank you for your encouragement and support, and keep supporting me. And I want you to come probably on many more of my future discussion. We're planning on a bunch of other things in terms of panel discussions and so on. Like you rightly said, it has to be absorbing, it has to be engaging. At the end of this whole thing, right, after seeing our little conversation, I would like people to have something to go back with, something that you learned. You feel, hey, I picked up something today. I learned a new thing today. And so I think that's what I try to achieve, which is why I try and bring a mixture of academics, industry leaders like yourselves. I've had people who are sports persons, who are actors, try to mix it so that there's diversity in their opinions. So thanks once again, Sriram. Thank you for your kind words. I wish you and Joyville all the very best and many successes.
thank you, Ringo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe to the EL Forum channel.